Did you know that your favorite video game took an average of 2 to 5 years to create? What appears as a seamless gaming experience on your screen began as nothing more than an idea in someone's imagination. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the entire game development process, from initial spark to final launch. How does creativity overcome technical challenges to bring these worlds to life? You'll see how games like Celeste evolved from simple climbing prototypes into award-winning platformers. The transformation from early concept to polished final product will completely change how you see the games you play every day. But before we dive into the video, please do subscribe to our channel. Ever wonder what your favorite games looked like in their earliest forms? The games you know and love weren't always the polished experiences you play today. Let's take you inside the first crucial phase of game development, where rough ideas transform into playable prototypes. Game development begins with a spark, maybe a simple mechanic, an interesting world, or a unique character. Small teams gather around whiteboards sketching out concepts, drawing stick figures performing actions, and mapping rough layouts of possible game worlds. These visual representations help communicate vision before coding begins. Games like Minecraft started as simple colored blocks with minimal physics. Imagine a digital Lego set waiting to become a world. The Last of Us began as rough character sketches navigating basic environments, the emotional journey existing only in pencil strokes. From these creative brainstorming sessions emerges the game design document, GDD, a comprehensive blueprint that becomes the Bible for the entire development process. This document covers everything: core gameplay loops, character abilities, level progression, art style, narrative elements, and monetization plans. A well-crafted GDD can run hundreds of pages while remaining flexible enough to adapt as development progresses, transforming creative chaos into an organized roadmap that helps teams estimate resources and timelines. Early prototyping is where ideas face their first real test. Developers create simplified versions of core mechanics using placeholder graphics to see if the fundamental gameplay is actually fun. Like a novelist's rough first draft focusing on story rather than prose, this stage features characters as basic shapes, environments as simple platforms, and special abilities as primitive particles. The focus remains on answering, is this fun to play? About 70% of early game concepts undergo significant revision during this phase, as brilliant on paper ideas meet practical reality. Fortnite illustrates this perfectly. Early versions look nothing like today's battle royale phenomenon. It started as a cooperative zombie defense game with building mechanics. Through extensive prototyping, developers discovered the potential for the battle royale mode that transformed gaming. Similarly, Celeste began during a 4-day game jam with just a simple pixel character who could climb walls and jump. This minimal prototype contained the seed that would grow into one of the most celebrated indie platformers in recent history. Throughout pre-production, which typically accounts for 20% of total development time, teams repeatedly ask, is the game fun? Is it engaging over longer periods? Does it work as intended? This iterative process saves resources by identifying problems early. Industry data suggests every dollar spent in pre-production saves approximately $5 in production costs. Nearly half of all initial game concepts are significantly altered during this experimental phase, where developers discover what truly works, often using paper prototyping with physical cards and tokens to rapidly iterate without technical constraints. After prototyping creates a solid foundation, the real test begins. What worked perfectly in a controlled prototype environment often shatters when expanded to a full game. Think of production as a wild ride where each twist and turn challenges the team's initial vision, a journey that transforms that early prototype through multiple rebuilds before it resembles the game players eventually experience. Production represents the most time-intensive phase of game development, typically spanning between 1 and 4 years. During this period, the entire development team, which can range from a dozen people to hundreds depending on the project scope, works to transform that basic prototype into a complete game. This transformation rarely follows a straight path, as developers encounter unforeseen challenges that force them to rethink their approach. The inherently multidisciplinary nature of game development creates a particularly complex working environment. Programmers, artists, designers, writers, and sound engineers must all synchronize their efforts despite working on dramatically different timelines and workflows. While a programmer might need weeks to implement a new gameplay system, artists could require months to create the associated visual assets. This creative juggling act demands careful coordination to ensure all components function seamlessly together. Integration testing becomes one of the most challenging aspects of production. Like connecting pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, one misfit piece can disrupt the entire picture. As assets and code from different teams come together, unexpected conflicts frequently emerge. A seemingly minor change to one system can trigger cascading failures throughout the game. Games like 𝗔𝗓𝗂𝘁 iconic underwater city of Rapture was completely rebuilt multiple times, as developers struggled to create believable water physics that wouldn't impact performance. Developers also face feature creep, the addition of unplanned features during production. External factors like emerging industry trends or publisher requests can pressure teams to incorporate new elements midway through production. Technical debt accumulates when systems initially designed for one purpose are modified for another, with quick fixes creating long-term problems. The Witcher 3 underwent multiple production iterations that completely transformed the combat system before landing on the fluid mechanics players eventually experienced. Surprisingly, in many large-scale projects, the genuine fun factor only materializes in the final stages of production. Only after the technical systems are fully integrated, optimized, and polished does the game recapture the engaging qualities that made the initial prototype exciting. The production phase clearly illustrates why game development is fundamentally iterative rather than linear. Developers must constantly test their work, identify problems, implement solutions, and refine their approach through hundreds of build versions. Each iteration, despite its challenges, brings the game closer to the envisioned player experience. While those rebuilt combat systems and redesigned environments are crucial, did you know that roughly 80% of what makes your favorite games feel perfect happens during a phase most players never even think about? This invisible work is where the real gaming magic happens, in the final stretch of development, where thousands of tiny adjustments transform a functional game into something truly exceptional. When a game reaches this stage, it's technically feature complete. All the planned elements exist in the game, but there's an enormous difference between feature complete and player ready. This is where testing begins, with internal teams methodically working through the entire game to ensure each component functions as intended, searching for collision detection issues and quest logic problems. Once these fundamental issues are addressed, beta testing brings in a wider audience, creating conditions closer to what the game will face after launch. Quality assurance testers become the unsung heroes during this phase. Like master chefs tasting and adjusting a complex recipe, they provide that crucial objective perspective developers often lack. Having grown too familiar with how things should work, developers can miss obvious flaws. QA testers approach the game systematically, testing every system, mechanic, and interface element with methodical precision, catching glitches that could tarnish the entire experience. User experience testing reveals fascinating insights that often surprise even veteran developers. A simple adjustment to button prompts in The Last of Us dramatically improved players' ability to navigate tense combat sequences. Features that seemed perfectly intuitive to creators frequently confuse actual players. The gap between developer knowledge and player experience is often much wider than anticipated. This testing phase invaluable for creating intuitive games. The optimization process involves adjustments that players rarely consciously notice, but would certainly miss if absent. Teams eliminate frame rate drops during intense action, reduce loading times, and ensure consistent performance across various hardware configurations. This creates that smooth, seamless experience through thousands of targeted improvements. Modern developers use sophisticated tools to identify player struggles. Heat maps display frequent death locations, while analytics track time spent in different areas, helping identify confusing sections. These insights allow precise adjustments, perhaps adding a subtle visual cue for a tricky puzzle, or reducing damage from a particularly punishing enemy attack. This dedication to refinement doesn't end at launch. Games like The Witcher 3 continue evolving through updates and expansion packs that extend gameplay and deepen story connections. This ongoing cycle allows teams to address overlooked issues and implement community feedback. What truly separates good games from masterpieces is this commitment to iteration. Each small adjustment might seem insignificant alone, but collectively, these thousands of tiny improvements create that magical feeling of a game that just feels right. The next time you boot up your favorite game, remember that what you're experiencing is the result of a meticulous refinement process. Great games are sculpted through countless iterations based on real player feedback. Developers constantly test and adjust, making hundreds of small improvements that collectively transform the experience. These seemingly minor tweaks make a profound difference. Initial gameplay concepts often require significant adjustment when they meet reality. Exceptional games, from indie studios to major developers, share a commitment to continuous improvement that creates experiences resonating deeply with players. What hidden game mechanic do you most appreciate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.